This Monday Night Football betting preview edition of the NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use promo code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on football. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code SGP. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use promo code SGPN on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app and use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play the Underdog Pick'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times your money in one game. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. And finally, we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Saturday, September the 16th, currently 2:04 on the East Coast. Here to get into the Monday Night Football action for NFL Week 2, and we got a doubleheader this Monday, two division matchups. The first one is going to be NFC South matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints, and the second game will be the Cleveland Browns visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. For help me break it all down and give out some more winning picks. You guys know him as the voice of the NBA Gambling Podcast and the MLB Gambling Podcast. It's Lante Smith. Lante, how's it going, my man?
Not bad, man. We had a good first show, so I think we can just roll that over into this. Big fan of the double headers. I think they should pretty much do this every other week, especially with the time staggered like they are now. But yeah, man, looking forward. We got two really good games, I think, in my opinion, with both teams, both home teams coming off losses. So yeah, we're gonna get into it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I could have sworn I think I remember seeing or having the double headers on week 1, wasn't it? Or
No, it used to be week 1. Yeah, it used to be week
okay.
1.
Yeah.
Now it's back to back. So we got one this week and we got one next week too.
Yeah, there we go. I wish it was a little more staggered because there's only 1 hour in difference between the time starting, because it's usually been like the early start, like the first game is at 6:15 or 7:15 Eastern, and then I think the second would be like the West Coast time. But nonetheless, hey, this is why we make sure we all have multiple screens to watch both games at the same time. But yeah, like Lante mentioned, it's two division games, two home teams hosting that are 0-1. Let's kind of go in I guess chronological order here, Lante. We'll start with the first game. That's going to be a 7:15 Eastern start. It's going to be a battle of the NFC South. New Orleans Saints, who are 1-0, got a week 1 victory against the Tennessee Titans on their home field. They are traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers, who are currently sitting at 0-1, who took a loss to another division rival, the Atlanta Falcons, in week 1 in Atlanta. They lost that game 24-10. But now back home, they are a 3-point home underdog, are the Carolina Panthers, plus 130 on the money line. The Saints are a 3-point favorite and minus 155 on the money line. Total is set at 40 in this game. And like I mentioned, Lante, like you mentioned as well, we have the Carolina Panthers, who are 0-1. They are catching 3 points here at home against the Saints here. But let's start with the spread here. We'll kind of work our way through the total and then some player props if we do have any. But let's start with the spread here. -3 in favor of the road team, the Saints. What are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, so I like the Panthers at home. I thought last week was pretty much a misleading result for Carolina. I mean, the game was tied 10-10 going into the fourth quarter, and Atlanta was like beneficiary of a few short fields. I think Bryce turned it over, maybe in the red zone. Well, whenever they were driving, they were backed up, I think, on the 20-yard line or something, and he threw a pick, and it got returned to the red zone. And they'll get DJ Chark back, I'm assuming. I mean, I haven't seen any news, but I've heard he's practicing and he was looking good. So I mean, I'm concerned with the weapons or I guess lack thereof for Carolina, but I think DJ Chark coming back could give them a boost and get those guys back to their normal. I guess he would be the number one and everybody else would just kind of fall down. Saints offensively, they didn't really impress me. They only scored one touchdown and they were +1 in turnovers, and they probably should have lost that game. I mean, Tennessee was kicking field goals. I think Mike Vrabel kicked the field goal. He was down, I think 4, and he tried to kick like that's usually he's usually not like that. So I think Tannehill missed a couple of touchdowns. They stalled in the red zone. So I think the Saints were pretty fortunate there. The run game was non-existent. I think they had 69 total yards, the Saints, that is. I think Carolina's secondary is decent enough to keep it close. I know J.C. Horn went on the IR, but I still think that secondary is pretty fine. And do we really trust Derek Carr to, take advantage of a beat-up secondary? I'm not so sure. So I like Carolina here, man. I wouldn't be shocked if they won the game. I mean, they won 3 of the last 5 versus New Orleans. They swept them last year, and I think this year they got a better team, at least offensively, better coaching staff as well. So I'm going to go with Carolina here, man, taking the points with them.
Yeah, the official update for DJ Chark in this game is Frank Wright, literally 16 minutes ago, as we're recording this pod, said DJ Chark hamstring expected to play in week 2, but he could be on a snap count. But obviously, getting him back is only going to help the offense for the Carolina Panthers. I like the Panthers catching the points here at home as well. I don't think the Saints should be warranted as a 3-point favorite, like you mentioned. I think also last week, this not only I think the Panthers final score was misleading, but also probably the Saints game as well. And I wasn't overly impressed with what I saw from the Saints last week. I think the opportunities were there for the Titans for them to win that game. I don't know why they got away from running the football when Derrick Henry was having so much success against the Saints in that game. And I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers on how he was doing on the ground. Let's see here. I have it right here. So rushing wise, I'm going to take away the Ryan Tannehill's 3 carries for 5 yards, but Tajay Spears, Derrick Henry, and Treylon Burks even got a rush in there. So those guys went 19 carries for 99 yards. That's just a hair above 5 yards per carry in that game. Derrick Henry in specific averaged 4.2 yards per carry, but the rushing for the Saints wasn't very good either. 27 carries, 69 yards, 2.6 yards per carry but as a team. Jamal Williams was 18 carries, 45 yards in that game last week. I've been a huge fan of this Panthers defense, man. I know Brian Burns is returned. I know he was having the contract dispute in the offseason. I think he recorded 2 sacks last week for the Carolina Panthers against the Atlanta Falcons. And like you mentioned, that those red zone turnovers that Bryce Young threw, the interceptions, really led to great field position for the Atlanta Falcons, which kind of inflated the score there a little bit. But I like the Panthers catching the points here at home. I think that, when people look at this offense for the Saints, you talk about Derek Carr, okay, maybe a league average quarterback, not a worst quarterback, but not, greatest. I think he's a great game manager, and, he has flashes where he can throw for 300 plus yards. I mean, we saw him do that multiple times with the Raiders. Chris Olave had a great game there as well. But after that, I wasn't really overly impressed with this offense here, Lante, for the Saints. So I'm with you. I like catching the points here with the Panthers. Total sitting at 40 in this game here, Lante. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you look at the board, not just this game specifically, I think whenever I did my notes earlier in the week, I think we had like 7 games that were like line 41 or under, like as far as the total. So I thought that was kind of odd, but I mean, honestly, I wouldn't look anywhere but under here. I think out of the last 5, I think 3 of those games have went under for the series. I think both teams will lean on the run game. Not sure if they'll have much success being on the like you mentioned with the Titans, they had success in the run game, but I mean, New Orleans historically doesn't, they don't give up a lot of runs. And I mean, Miles Sanders had fumbling issues. He was another one of those players who gave the Falcons a short field with that fumble that he had. And I think that was a little bit. I think they were driving on the other side of the field actually when he fumbled the ball. But yeah, I think both teams will try to lean on the run, try to limit Bryce Young's mistakes, and especially if DJ Chark, like you mentioned, is going to be on the snap count. I think he does elevate the offense, but again, how healthy is he to be able to go out in his first game? Probably going to be a little bit winded, not in game shape quite yet. So yeah, they kind of want to take it easy on that hamstring going thinking about long term versus short term. So I think we see defensive field position game here. So I'm going with the under.
Since 2015, Panthers at home in division games, they are 16-8 towards the under, right around about 66.7%. And if we want to break that down against the Saints in particular in that span, 8 home games, 5-3 to the under. And if I could just take out that home variable there, it does go towards the over a little bit, but that is because the Saints, were more of a team, especially with Drew Brees, that would cash towards the over at in New Orleans. But just in specific here, I just had this in front of me. Let me, Panthers in division games at home, 16-8 towards the under. So I think I'm right there with you on the under. In this game again, I think it'll be a defensive battle. We saw it last week, right? I don't think Carolina will be able to put up enough points in this game. I think the Saints weren't overly impressive offensively last week against the Tennessee Titans either. So something maybe like a 17-14 type of game, 20-17 in that neighborhood. I think that's where we probably do get in this under of 40 in this game. Let's move over to some player props in this game here. Lance, anything that you do like?
Yeah, so I like two. I didn't see a lot of Panthers because I was looking to take some DJ Chark like receptions and yards, but I didn't see a lot of Panthers props. So I got two on the New Orleans side. I'm going to go with Jamal Williams under 52.5. That's available at DraftKings at plus money, actually. He carried the ball, I think 15 or 18 times, 15 to 18 times.
18 last week,
for 45 yards. Kendre Miller, I think he practiced. I'm guessing they're expecting him to come back, if I'm not mistaken. So his carry should be cut down a notch. The next leading rushers, ball carriers were Taysom Hill and Carr. They both had 3 each. So, I mean, you got to think if they're going to put if Kendre Miller's going to be back, he's going to get some carries here. And, the Panthers did okay versus the run last week. Outside of 2 20-plus yard gains from Bijan and Algier, they pretty much limit them to, I guess, they both had 70 yards, so around 50 yards each. And that's not bad for an offense who really wants to run the ball in the Atlanta Falcons. So I think both of these, I think Jamal Williams under and maybe a Kendre Miller prop over might be kind of correlated because I don't think Jamal Williams is going to break for a long run, especially against that front seven, like you mentioned with Burns. So I do like him under 52.5 and getting plus money, kind of like the cherry on top for me. I also like Juwan Johnson over 29.5 receiving yards. He had 5 targets last week and 3 catches, 36 yards. I just think universally the Carolina Panthers usually struggle with tight ends, if I'm not mistaken, unless you're Kyle Pitts and you're and the quarterback can't get you the ball. So, but yeah, I think that Juwan Johnson has a decent game, and we all know Derek Carr likes to check it down, even in non-advantageous, non-advantageous downs. He still checks it down. I think Juwan Johnson is a perfect candidate to get 4 or 5 catches and 50 yards here. So I like him over 29.5 yards and Jamal Williams under 52.5 rush yards.
Yeah, I was looking at Brian Burns' sack in this game. That's not listed just yet by the books, but I will be. I'm pretty sure that'll be at 0.75 for the number and over for him. But you take a look at Brian Burns in his career against the New Orleans Saints. He's played them. Let's see here, 2, 4, 5 times in his career against the New Orleans Saints, and he's recorded a sack in 4 out of those 5 games. Last week, I want to say he had 2 sacks against the Atlanta Falcons against Desmond Ridder last week. Let me just double check that here. So Brian Burns, 2 sacks last week. He had 1 tackle for loss. And they were able to generate some type of pressure on the on the Atlanta Falcons last week. As a team that had 4 sacks. So I'm going to look at either Derek Brown or Brian Burns to record a sack in this game. Hopefully some nice plus odds on that. But I mean, offensively, I really didn't like a lot. Like you mentioned, there's not a lot listed right now, especially on Saturday here, especially when props are usually out. I think you probably got to continue looking at Desmond Ridder unders. I mean, right now, currently his passing yards at least is listed at, let's see here, Desmond Ridder. No, sorry, not Desmond Ridder. For Bryce Young, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I know what you meant.
Bryce Young 196.5. So I think we'll see more of, like you mentioned, like a slug it out type of game here. Under 196.5 for Bryce Young until I see him get it done for me. I think I got to continue riding on the unders for Bryce Young. Last week, like you mentioned, 20 of 38. He did have 2 interceptions, but only 146 yards passing through the air. That's even on 38 attempts last week. Yep. Miles Sanders had a pretty good week last week for this rushing attack. So I think that we might see a ground attack here from this Carolina Panthers team against the New Orleans Saints. They, as a team, they combined for 32 for 154 yards, 4.8 yards per carry. Miles Sanders at the forefront of that, 18 carries, 72 yards. Chuba Hubbard, 9 carries, 60 yards for this team here as well. The last one I did want to mention here on a possible over for Bryce Young is possibly his rushing yards here.
I like that. I didn't see it though. I didn't see it. I didn't see any Panthers players listed. I'm guessing it has something to do with I think it's Miles Sanders was on the injury report earlier in the week also, him, DJ Chark. So I'm not sure if they just didn't post them because they were waiting on those guys. I mean, it is a Monday night game, so those props usually don't come out until probably Sunday.
Yeah, I see Miles Sanders right now at 59.5 over on DraftKings for his rushing yards, but nothing for Bryce Young. Anything else you have for this game?
No, I didn't.
All right, before we get over to the second game of the Monday night schedule, let me tell everyone about DraftKings. DraftKings is the official sports betting partner of the NFL, and football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? That's going to be DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use promo code SGP to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code SGP. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. And we're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time tickets. Look, we're winding down the MLB season, and like we mentioned, football is in full swing. So you probably want to get out to maybe catch a game at the ballpark before the season's over. You want to go out and support your football team, whether it's at the collegiate level or at the professional level, or maybe there's a comedy show that's in town or the theater show that you want to go watch within your area. Let Game Time help you out and find those tickets. And they don't create a stressful environment because they make it so easy on their app. Some of the things I love on their app, man, they have some great flash deals, and they have tickets up to the day of the event. They're easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, like you mentioned. But the best thing I love about their app is that you can actually get an image of your seat view when you go in to buy those tickets for a particular event. Their lowest prices are guaranteed. Event cancellation protection there as well. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the game of the event. Game Time guarantee also means you'll always get the best price. Get this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how confident they are in their prices. So all you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Lante, let's get over to the second game of the schedule on Monday Night Football, and probably a little more exciting matchup here. It's an AFC North battle between the 1-0 Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Currently, I am looking at the lines. The Cleveland Browns are a 2.5-point road favorite here. They are minus 135 on the money line. Total is set at 38.5. Money line for the Pittsburgh Steelers at plus 114. Obviously, catching 2.5 points here at home. Let's start with some injury news in this game here, Lante, both at the wide receiving position for both teams here. So, Amari Cooper did pop up on the injury report as of Saturday. The official news is that he aggravated his groin injury during Saturday's practice. He's going to be monitored over the next 48 hours. So he's officially questionable for this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Deontay Johnson for the Pittsburgh Steelers is officially ruled out for this matchup against the Cleveland Browns in this game. So we'll probably see some more George Pickens, maybe some Calvin Austin in this game. And maybe obviously more Allen Robinson as well. But let's work our way with the side here, Lante. 2.5, the Steelers are catching here at home against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think it's a good buy low spot for Pittsburgh. They were dominated at home, outgained by 150 yards. They were -1 in the turnover margin. And they got dominated in the time of possession. They couldn't run the ball at all, which is, usually what Tomlin teams do. They usually try to run the ball to set up the pass. I mean, they only mustered up 41 yards last week. Najee was pretty much a non-factor. And I mean, I know that San Francisco has one of the best fronts in the NFL, if not the best. Cleveland's right behind them. So it's not going to get any easier here. They were unreal. Cleveland's defense, that is, in week 1. They held the Bengals to 142 total yards, completely shutting down that pass attack. I thought that was really impressive, especially on the front part of that defense. So, I mean, I know weather was a bit of a issue there. So, but again, both teams had to deal with it, not just one team. So I think you got to credit Cleveland there. But I think we're on team favorite here. I think Pittsburgh should be favorite here at least by 1.5. I think I got it power rated at 1.5. Pittsburgh. I think it's a good buy low spot. Kenny Pickett is just looking to bounce back. I think they'll just learn from that first game and look to bounce back at home. Historically, they usually do well in Pittsburgh against Cleveland. I think they won the last 2, both by 13 and 14 points, or 14 and 13 points, whichever way it goes. I can't remember the exact numbers on it, but yeah, I mean, I think at home, Tomlin teams usually bounce back, especially after an embarrassing loss at home. He's going to have the speeches ready, all the quotables ready. He's already been giving out some in his weekly press conferences. So I think Pittsburgh wins this game here, man. I'll take the 2.5 points, just because, but I think they win the game outright.
Yeah, I feel like the moment under the lights, a prime time, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely going to rise to the occasion here. I mean, last week, I know a lot of us were on the Pittsburgh Steelers and just got absolutely drubbed they just got dominated by the San Francisco 49ers. And that just tells you how great of a team 49ers are. But I think the one area that they are going to have to improve is going to be their rush defense, because last week, if we take away what Sam Darnold did, coming in for them, 32 carries for 186 yards on the ground for the San Francisco 49ers against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And now you have Nick Chubb coming to town. So I think that if they're able to really, do a better job on the ground, they should have success in this game. They allowed 5.81 yards per carry to the San Francisco 49ers last week. But Kenny Pickett didn't have the greatest game. His QBR was only 27.5 last week. He did have 2 interceptions, and that game that game got away from them early. Let's not kid ourselves, because it was 10-0 in that first quarter. By the half, it was 20-7 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they didn't score a single point in that second half. And to your point, Lante, like you mentioned, with Mike Tomlin coach team, obviously with the Steelers here, a couple of trends that I did find. I'll start with the Browns here. So under Kevin Stefanski, Browns coming off a win. If their next game is on the road, they're 6-10 straight up and 6-10 against the spread. And if that next game is a division game, coming off of a win, 1-4 straight up and 1-4 against the spread. So not doing well coming off of victories here for the Cleveland Browns under Kevin Stefanski. Some great trends that I did found, favoring the Pittsburgh Steelers under Mike Tomlin here. I know this has a lot to do with Ben Roethlisberger obviously being the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but also to your fact about, him getting his teams ready to play ball after coming off an embarrassing loss. So since 2007, that's the year where Mike Tomlin became the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh coming off of a loss, and they're playing at home. They're 34-14 straight up. That's 70.8%, and they're 27-20-1 against the spread, about 57.4% in that span. Since 2007, Pittsburgh is 16-1 straight up against the Cleveland Browns at home. And if you want to trim that down to the Kevin Stefanski era, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-1 straight up and 3-1 against the spread against the Browns at home under the Kevin Stefanski era. And last tidbit I found here, Tomlin era previous loss by 20 or more points. The Steelers are 8-2 straight up and 8-2 against the spread in their next game. 4-0 straight up and 4-0 against the spread at home in those games coming off of a loss. So again, I think that this is a great spot here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like them plus 2.5. I like them on the money line. If you want to take an alt line on them, get that up to minus 2.5.
Yep.
I think this is a game where they do bounce back here against the Cleveland Browns, because you don't want to start number 1 0-2 on the season and then drop a division game here as well. So I'm expecting Kenny Pickett and company to bounce back here. I'm expecting the defense to, after absolutely just getting drubbed both in the passing game and the running game last week, Lante, to really rise to the occasion in this game.
Yeah, man. It's just a sense of desperation. Can't go down. And in a division like this, especially where all these games are going to be pretty much close. I mean, probably one of the best divisions in football. So you got to come out and play on your home field. After that performance that you put up last week, I think they'll come back and they'll shine.
TJ Watt last week and all of that, admits he still had 3 sacks in that game.
He was a monster. Yeah,
5 hits on the quarterback last week for TJ Watt. So both locking the Steelers here. Thoughts on the total here, Lante? That number is currently sitting at 38.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent. I kind of want to go over. I'm thinking that Pittsburgh is going to open it up. I don't know if you saw it, but Tomlin wasn't too happy with Canada's offensive scheme and what they were doing or what they were running in that game. I don't know if that had to do with San Francisco's defense just being that good, or Matt Canada's play calling. I think it was probably a mix of both. It just so happened that San Francisco defense was just on another level that specific Sunday. But I think Canada will be more open to opening the ball up. I would love to see Jaylen Warren in the backfield and then split Najee Harris out, so that way you have both of them on the field at the same time. So I think they'll open it up a little bit more. I'm kind of concerned with the Amari Cooper injury, because, I mean, he's the only, I guess, separator on that team as far as at the wide receiver position. So they pretty much can stack the box on Chubb and force Watson to feed somebody else. So I'm kind of indifferent. I guess I would more so lean with a Pittsburgh team total over. I'm thinking that their offense comes out with a little bit more urgency. They're probably going to have their foot on the gas a little bit more, want to get the fans, I guess they're a little bit of money back for that opening day performance. So I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh team total over. If I had to play it, I'd lean to the full game over, but I just don't trust Cleveland's offense, especially without Cooper.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking on their team total over for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's at 17.5 right now, currently over at DraftKings. If you're able to find a 17, I'll be comfortable with that, because obviously that's a key number at 17 in this game. But I think that offensively they should be better in this game. I think that you're right, that I think we'll see a lot of Najee Harris, and I think that we'll see Jaylen Warren as well. We talked about the Deontay Johnson injury. I guess we could. It's a good transition over to player props. Then, you mentioned Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, but I think, who do you think will be the beneficiary here for the Steelers, at least the wide receiving group, taking the targets that Deontay Johnson got?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy answer is just George Pickens. I think that's who the public will be on for the most part. So I'm gonna kind of stay away from him and go to Pat Freiermuth. I think Pat Freiermuth can have a big game. Obviously, the Cincinnati wasn't able to get the pass game going, but I think that Pittsburgh will have success. Freiermuth is looked for, especially in that red zone. You can take a shot on him at first TD score. I think that's a good bet to make, because I think he'll get more involved here. I do like Allen Robinson, but I didn't see any of his numbers listed when I was looking. I don't know if that had to do with some of the injury stuff, or it just being Saturday and it's too early. But I think the beneficiary is going to be Freiermuth, and I mean they'll split it up between Pickens and Robinson, but I think Freiermuth will be the biggest beneficiary from Deontay Johnson being out.
Let's see here. Yeah, I only see receiving yards right now for George Pickens, which is at 42.5. It's pretty much the same number as last week. But let me double check if there's any more that have popped up here. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, if you like George Pickens, I would probably look at just an alt line for him, because if he's gonna get those snaps, as many snaps as people think he is, he's probably got a chance to go for 75 plus. So if you can on DraftKings, they got the slider. I would just slide it up to 75. I'm pretty sure you can get some decent odds on that instead of playing 42.5. Might as well get more bang for your buck, because I mean we know he can explode for 50 to 60 yard catch in just one play.
Yeah, I know last season he did have success, or I think it was just one game where he did have success against the Browns. So yeah, last season, week 2 or 3 they did play. He had 3 receptions, 39 yards. And then the second game in January, he had 3 receptions, 72 yards for the Pittsburgh offense. And I'm trying to find an alt line if we can see here we go. rushing. Where is receiving? Receiving. No risk. Oh, here we go. No, only all on or yeah, they only have it. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. 75 plus yards for George Pickens. It's at plus 360. If you want to
It's
go
kind of short.
yeah, 50 plus at plus 120. 100 plus is at 10-1. But
Yeah, okay.
yeah, it seems a little short there for George Pickens. Also want to see how Najee has done in his career against the Browns here quickly before.
Yeah, I was gonna look at a rush receiving prop for Najee, thinking that he's gonna get more involved here.
Yeah, so he had 4 career games. He's averaging 100 and old the numbers are a little inflated. I'll just kind of read off the numbers. So 91 rushing yards, 188, 56, and 80 in 4 career games.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, so his number is currently at rushing yards for Najee Harris. Let's see here. That's receiving, rushing. Najee Harris, 49 and a half.
Yeah, that's kind of low. That's kind of low. What is his rush receiving?
Rush plus receiving, let's see.
Like 75.
Yeah, probably in that neighborhood. Actually, 62 and a half.
Oh yeah, that's kind of low.
I think this has to be the Najee game, don't you think?
Yeah. It has to be, because you got to get that defensive line moving. You're not going to run off tackle against Myles Garrett and company. So you kind of want to get Najee in space and allow him to get downhill. That's why I was saying they should probably put both of those backs on the field, and force a linebacker or safety to cover Najee Harris. And I mean, he's a really good route runner, so I think that he'll have a big game.
Also, what also jumps out about Najee, and I think this is a good transition to our touchdown props here. Najee has scored at least 1 touchdown in every game against the Cleveland Browns in his 4 career games. His number right now for anytime touchdown is plus 145.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'll go with Najee. One player I also did want to mention here, Alante, Deshaun Watson on his rushing yards. I think there may be an opportunity for the Cleveland Browns that, obviously they know right now if Amari Cooper is going to be out, that's, they're probably going to have to rely on Nick Chubb a lot more. So I can see where, they could run some RPO here with Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson, that Watson, tucks it and, get some yards himself, because last week he did have some success on the ground against the Cincinnati Bengals. He did have 5 carries for 45 yards last week, did Deshaun Watson. So his number is currently at 25 and a half for this game. I don't hate that. I just think that, again, the intention that Nick Chubb is going to get from the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that might open up opportunity for Deshaun Watson to get some rushing yards. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, like you mentioned, with that pass rush, all he has to do is, if that pocket is open, and just step up and he's off for 15 to 20 yards. So yeah, I don't hate that at all. I'm kind of indifferent on what to expect. I need to find out if Amari is going to play, because that kind of shades the game plan a lot, because you don't have they don't have the depth to be able to withstand a number one without a number one, especially early on when you're not really prepped for it, and you got the young guys coming in. I think after him, like who would you say would be their number 2 for Cleveland?
I mean, as far as their backfield, I mean, last week I was just kind of looking at the box score. That's what it was Jerome Ford who had 15 carries last week.
Yeah.
But that only netted 36 yards.
Yeah.
But 17 of those 36 yards came on 1 carry.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the receivers? Like, who would you expect to be because if you're not going to get much success with the backup running back, and Chubb, I'm pretty sure when he's in the game, they're going to be swarming all over him. So, and if you don't have a number 1 in Cooper, then they're not going to respect these other guys. So
yeah, so I think it probably has to be Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
And then it would probably be David Njoku.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at Njoku for like anytime touchdown score. He's right at like 350.
Yeah. Did you like any touchdown props scores for the Saints and the Panthers game?
Jawan Johnson, I like him. It's crazy. I like both sides to score. Yeah, I like him a lot.
I was looking at Jamal Williams at plus 110, but I think that maybe Miles Sanders may be the better bet here.
What about
plus 170?
What about Kendre Miller? Is he listed?
Kendre Miller. No, I don't see him.
Yeah,
actually I do. I'm sorry. 5-1.
Yeah, I'll take a shot with Kendre Miller because I mean they only last week they only ran one back. Like Jamal Williams was strictly the number one back. They ran. I think the other guy had 2 carries. I can't remember his name. And then Taysom Hill and Derek Carr had 3 carries, which was the second tie for the second rushing total. So I mean, Taysom Hill is always scary because he'll get in around the goal line. But I think with Kendre Miller back, they want to get him some action. I'll take a sprinkle on that 5-1 to get in the end zone.
All right, I like it, man. All right, so that is pretty much gonna do it. Do you have anything else for the Steelers and the Browns game?
No, I don't.
All right, so we can get over to some best bets here. Maybe lock, dog, whatever you want to give out here, Lonte. I know we did like player props and best bet last week. Whatever you want to give out as winners for this 2 games for the doubleheader.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with for like a dog. I'm gonna parlay both dogs here. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh, Carolina money line parlay that plays about roughly like 405, 4-1. So shop around, make sure you get the best number. But I think both dogs are live here. The total indicates going to be less possessions, so you always want to lean with the dog in that scenario. So I like both home teams. I guess if you want to play them separately, I do like Pittsburgh a little bit more just because I trust their pedigree and the players on their team more than Carolina. Carolina just doesn't have the offensive firepower that the Steelers have. So I guess my favorite dog would be Pittsburgh. I guess a player prop, man, I'll go Jawan Johnson over 29.5 receiving yards. That'll be my next one that I like.
All right. I guess for my best bet, it's got to be Steelers for me, man. Steelers plus 2.5 on the money line as well. I just think this is just a great spot for the Steelers to bounce back here. I feel like the Browns are getting a little too much respect coming off their victory against the Cincinnati Bengals, where they just didn't look very good, right? I mean, Bengals, Joe Burrow didn't play really in any of the preseason. So that I think that kind of showed for him. Also, coming off the huge contract that he signed. So I think the Cleveland Browns were able to take advantage of that. I mean, I'm not saying that it was because of the contract, but I think it was more so that he really didn't play in the preseason, that there was some rust for him to shake off. So expect Cincinnati to bounce back here. So I think that Browns were fortunate last week. I think that they'll have a tougher time with a motivated team here in the Pittsburgh Steelers. So plus 2.5, plus 120 on the money line for me as my best bet for this the Monday Night Football game. And for player prop, I really like Najee in this game, man. I think that he's going to find the end zone. I like the point that you brought up about his rushing and receiving yard total over 62.5. I like that. And then for him to find the end zone in this game, excuse me, I know it's almost at even money here, but it's around, I think, plus 110. Currently over on DraftKings for him to find the end zone. So I'll go with Najee Harris props here, man. I'm sorry, plus 145 is what I see. If you want to get degenerate, take his first touchdown score, plus 650 for him to do that. So I'm expecting big things out of Najee in this game against the Cleveland Browns. Lonte, anything else we want to mention, my man, before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Hopefully we can keep the streak going. I think we both had a pretty good first show. So hopefully we can keep it going here. We got 2 games this week, got 2 games next week. So yeah, hopefully we can get in the winner's circle again.
Yeah, man. We had a great week 1. So hopefully we're going to be able to continue to do that in this doubleheader on Monday Night Football. We'll be back next week with another doubleheader, like Lonte mentioned. What is it next week? Who do we have next week? I don't even.
Let me see. I got it pulled up right here. Give me 1 second. It's 2 solid. It's 2 solid games too.
Let me see here.
My screen isn't refreshing. What the?
Here, I got it.
Philly, Tampa, Rams, Bengals. Well, I guess it looked good. It looked good on paper last year.
Hey, Tom Brady was still with the Buccaneers. This would be a more of an intriguing matchup. But, Rams Bengals shouldn't be too bad. I know the Rams surprised the Seattle Seahawks in week 1.
Yeah.
But, all right, make sure to follow Lonte on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at XXLonteXX. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. More importantly, make sure to follow the NFL Gambling Podcast YouTube account. Just make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. Left us a rating and review for the NFL Gambling Podcast. please do so. We'll be back on Monday for the recap show with J Mark and Moneyline Max. So look out for it then. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.